Thank you for joining us again for another episode of Get Ready News. I'm Mark Lindsted. This is my brother David Lindsted. And we like to cover the news or current events from the viewpoint of the Bible.
That's right. We can always take everything back to the Bible, and the Bible kind of gives us an idea of what we're looking at and how we should view it. What are we supposed to do with this information?
And if you were watching the last couple of weeks, you'll know that I wasn't here. I was on a trip to Burma and Thailand, or Myanmar, as the new government likes to keep calling it. We had a good time. I took some kids from our school, and we went and visited a sister school in Myanmar, there in Yangon, called Step Center for Academics.
Is Yangon, are they still controlled by the military, or they've released the president yet? Or
No, she's still in jail. The report is that she's still alive. They haven't said she's died or anything, but what happened there several years ago, she won the election again. The military thought they were going to win more seats in their government style, and so they said her party was cheating. So they arrested her and took over the government. So it's run under a military coup right now, and there's a lot of civil unrest, a lot of fighting still going on in the more rural areas. The Kachin people are fighting back pretty hard, and that's been a sore spot for our family over there, because our cousin Pam is married to Zama. He's a Chin person.
Yeah, and he's a Christian guy. In fact, I think he went to seminary there in India.
Yeah.
And got a Bible degree there, and now they're doing phenomenal work, I think, there in Yangon.
Yeah.
I believe we went there and visited him quite a few years ago
2017,
now.
yeah.
And before we went there, I think we watched a movie, Rangoon.
Yeah.
The Road to Rangoon.
Road to Rangoon. And then, of course, if you want to see some real things that are going on, you can watch any of the Free Burma Ranger stuff right now.
Oh, yeah. That's really good stuff. In fact, I think we watched one of theirs in the theater one time.
Yeah. And those guys are telling the true story, what's really going on there right now. They're behind the scenes fighting and helping those people all that they can.
Yeah.
The Step Center for Academics is an international school.
Right.
They don't call it a Christian school in a country like that because it's not allowed. So they call it an international school, but they have what they call the book class.
Right.
And the book is the Bible.
Right. And I think that the thought is, and the government understands this, they have to have some type of English book, something that translates all throughout every nation, and that happens to be the Bible, and the Bible's a good way to teach English and to bring the kids up in good education, and so the government's fine with us using that.
Well, and even the Buddhist people and the Hindu people in India, and even Muslims, believe it or not, understand that the Bible does teach morality well.
Absolutely.
So there's another school that we're talking about working with in Bangladesh, which is primarily a Muslim country,
right?
And they have what they call morality class taught using the Bible.
That's fantastic, and that was a good pattern for the United States. We use the Bible ourselves for a good morality book on how we should conduct life and business and the country, and it's good. It's good living. I mean, if you follow the Bible, it's actually really good morale. Of course, that doesn't save you.
No, doesn't save you. Well, in fact, I think that wasn't the Bible like the main textbook when we first started our school systems.
Yes.
So, and to see as we further get the Bible out of our classrooms, and as we try to get rid of the Pledge of Allegiance and prayer and all this other stuff, you can see what happens to a nation when you leave and abandon morality.
I think between that and telling people that they are pond scum that just happen to become a human, I think you devalue knowledge, you devalue human life, and you make people don't care if they live or not.
Yeah. Well, the school there has over 500 students registered now. And it just keeps growing every year. They've had a little struggle finding teachers. So if you're ever thinking about how to pray for a school like that, pray that they'll find more teachers, qualified teachers, and that the fighting is at a minimum.
Yeah.
And right now they're dealing with a lot of families are worried about their sons and daughters' forced conscription. So they've set an age range, and if you fall in those age range and they want you, they can take you and you're joining the army.
Exactly, and I think that's probably the biggest fear right now. And then they would use those people that they induct into the Army as kind of the front line
Yes.
to move into an area. Well, you don't want to shoot your son or your daughter.
Yeah.
Well, not that they have guns over there, but you don't want to fight back and risk injuring them. And I think so. Some of that's that thought as well as just putting people in the military.
It's interesting to me that as a nation, we are sending billions of dollars to Ukraine.
Yeah.
We're worried about Ukraine. We're sending billions of dollars in weapons to Israel. We haven't once said one thing about what's happening in Myanmar right now.
Yeah, and it's devastating. I mean, there's been a lot of people killed and a lot of human rights trampling on, and you're right. We send money everywhere. In fact, the interesting thing that I was reading about the other day is, it always amazed me why Russia didn't just take Ukraine. I mean, it should have taken it in a half a day.
Yeah.
Russia has the firepower and the means to do that, but I think there's other things that play in the background there, and that one of them is Ukraine wants to be in NATO. Well, you can't induct a NATO member while they're in war.
Yes.
And so I think Russia has kept this going to prevent them from becoming NATO.
Yeah.
And so there's all sorts of things happening in the background we have no idea about. And I still think that it's a money laundering place for some people. And Burma and Myanmar just doesn't get any play at all,
Well, heaven forbid we try to free people from a military regime that's running a country into the ground. That'd be crazy for us to do that. They overthrew a real democracy and instilled a military coup. And what do we do? Anyway, so who else needs money and who else can we help besides these guys?
And I'm looking at how much they want to send back to Ukraine, but what about our folks on the East Coast that had a hurricane go through and Kamala, I think, gave everybody $750.
Yeah, well, and we at Milk and Honey do a lot of mission work. In fact, I'm going to be leaving in January for most of the month to be in India, work at a children's youth camp and a workers and elders conference, and we're always welcome people to ask us about it. If they want to get involved, they can do that as well. And just email myself at mark@getreadynews.com or Dave at dave@getreadynews.com. And we'll be happy to answer any questions you have about our mission work, how you can get involved, what you can pray for. We're not always looking for money. We're also looking for prayer. I tell you, there's a lot of things that we need prayer over to make sure we're doing the right thing at the right time. So
exactly, and maybe this next month, while you're out there, we can get a video sent from you or something, just to maybe show us an update. I know that we're involved in building churches out there, helping get churches built, and some other stuff. I think there was one place where one of the pastors was trying to get a place to live, and so trying to get some of that brought up to code and ready to go.
Yeah, there's a lot going on in India. We built 6 new chapels there in the last 2 years now, and helped a couple other chapels expand. And there is an evangelist who is renting a house, but if we can finish out the rest of the back end of the chapel has a parsonage kind of. It's,
right.
And you think it's crazy to say, oh wow, we want to build this house for them. Well, what it really costs in India versus here is crazy. I mean, it's like $1,500 to finish out a 2-bedroom little house with the electricity and water.
Right, and that brings us to some things like tariffs.
Yeah.
When we were in Myanmar, and I don't know what it is today, you could tell me for sure, but I think the average person made like 50 cents a day.
Yeah.
And that sounds like, oh man, those people can't survive, but that's okay money for them. I mean, you're not going to get rich at it, but it's kind of like minimum wage here, and people don't understand that when you have that cheap of labor making stuff and exporting it to the United States at such a cheap cost, we can't compete with that money.
Sure. Well, yeah, and the daily rate for India and Myanmar both right now is just under $5, $4 or $5 a day. And I'm talking sun up to sundown hard labor.
Right.
I'm not talking sitting behind a cash register and booping buttons. So and really to have a good job there, you have to have what they call a government job, which means you went to government school and you got government approved to do a government job. And even then, it's not great money. But they're currency called the Chet there in Myanmar has gone crazy lately. You know, when we went in 2017, it was 1,300 Chet to the dollar.
Right.
And when I was there just now, it's 4,390 Chet to the dollar.
Wow.
And
That's inflation at its worst.
Well, about 2 months before I got there, it was 7,500 Chet to the
Wow.
dollar. So, that we gave the teachers a raise, but they didn't realize the raise because they're being paid in Chet.
Right.
So it truly is a struggle. We're looking at starting a school in India right now. We're working with the government there. So, like I say, if you want to get involved or know anything about these, just send us an email. I'll be happy to tell you what's going on, to keep you up to date, to let you know what to pray for, what the needs are. And again, that's Mark at getreadynews.com or Dave at getreadynews.com.
And maybe we ought to figure out a way to do some type of newsletter or do a monthly thing, just kind of doing an update on what's going on around the world with us.
The last year, I was able to take about 3,500 Bibles in to India, and right now I'm able to purchase a decent Bible and a cover for the Bible in country for about $4. So that's another thing we're working on is keeping our funds up for the Bible distribution.
And it's amazing that you wouldn't have ever thought of that, but that saves on shipping, and that puts money in their little economy over there, and the people get the word written in their own language, printed in their own area. It worked out pretty good.
Makes a big difference. But speaking of leadership, I think I saw that our brainless or fearless, I don't know what to call him, or maybe he's too brainless to be fearless, or he's fearless because he's brainless. I'm not sure how to word that. Kind of recanted on something he had said about earlier in the election work.
You know, I watched, I don't know how many different clips. There had to have been 15 or 20 different clips of him saying, I'm not going to do this. I will never do this. And then all of his, like his public, the girl that Karine Jean-Pierre, whatever she is, press secretary or whatever.
Yeah.
And then all these people say, "Oh, he will never do this."
Interestingly enough, he did it.
He did it. Absolutely.
Well, he's trying to. I guess that I never knew that you could question this, but I guess they can question presidential pardons. It looks like.
I think to an extent they can. It kind of depends. One of the things I think I know about pardons is you have to be careful when you give them and how you give them, because if you don't give them at the appropriate time, they can still kind of get you on something.
Sure.
And so I think, one of the ones, you think it back to when they were trying to find Trump guilty on things that were made up.
Yeah.
And he waited until certain times in some of the people that worked in this campaign to pardon them, because if he pardons too early, they can keep going. So but I also think that you're right. I think there can be a little bit of an inquiry on what you're doing.
Well, and I think one of the inquiries, and I may be wrong about this, but it sounds to me like he's trying to pardon them for a time period rather than crime.
And that's not his son. That's some other people. In fact, I think it's Shift, and I think I have a thing here. No, I don't have that one pulled up. I think it's Shift and Cheney and someone else.
Dr. Death?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Fauci. And it already thinks that it's going back to the January 6th issues. And some of the stuff that they did were pretty horrendous. Some of the things that came out of their mouth. And so I think he's trying to pardon them over a time span.
Yeah.
The problem is that if that goes through, I guess, we could still prosecute them if it was outside the time span.
Well, here's my question then. If you blanket pardon someone for a time span, let's just say it's his son.
Yeah.
Let's just say Hunter is being pardoned for 2014 to 2024.
Right.
And you go and you find dead bodies in his backyard.
Yep.
Now what do you do?
Exactly.
Well, he's been pardoned. Pardoned for what exactly? So I think there's a real danger in giving people just a time period of amnesty.
Oh, I agree 100%. And I don't even know, I don't know enough about it to know if it's for a time period back then or if it's a time period coming up or what it is. But if you could claim and do things during that time period that you're going to be pardoned for. Yeah. So it's ludicrous to me. One of the things that I thought was fairly interesting is that 62%. Now, remember, and I think you had read one that said 64, so it's probably
64,
going
yeah.
up. 51% roughly of America voted for Trump.
Yeah.
62 to 64% of America says that this is wrong.
Yeah.
That
So
he
even
should
people who
not.
voted for him
Yeah.
or her
Yes.
say that this is the wrong thing to do.
Absolutely. This is something that they accused Trump of doing,
Yeah.
or they were afraid he was going to do. And I find it interesting is here we are again of the left pointing and accusing when they are doing the exact thing they're accusing.
The left, in my opinion, is a classic case of whatever they're accusing somebody of is exactly what they're doing.
It just works that way every time. So whenever they say something and they point to Trump and say you're colluding with Russia, now my thought is, oh, you guys are colluding with Russia.
Well, that's been proven.
Absolutely.
They were the ones. Hillary and her
Absolutely.
campaign were the ones colluding with Russia.
And Russia was helping them pull together some type of document, a fake document.
A dossier. Well, and the funny thing is that the mainstream media has kind of admitted to that.
Yes.
But they still say that Russia was trying to get Trump elected. But Russia was helping Hillary.
Yeah.
So I don't understand where that connection is made mentally for them.
Well, you know, we are living in a society that for some reason believes that two conflicting ideas can be true.
Yeah.
The idea that I'm outside and that idea that I'm inside cannot be true. One is true, one is false, but this generation accepts both as true. And I think that sets you up for this mentality.
Well, what I could see is specifically the Bible says, woe to those who call evil good and good evil.
Yeah.
And I think that's exactly where we are right now in society. We have people calling the most heinous things good.
Absolutely. Women's health care.
Yeah.
What about that is health care for a woman?
Yeah. Well, and that was proven. I think I was reading just an article just the other day that 99.9% of abortions are not healthcare related.
Yeah.
It is an elective procedure used as contraception.
In fact, I had one here from India. Abortions in Indiana dropped 98%. It's just amazing what we were using abortion for and the blanket that was over it.
Well, my fear now is that the surrounding states that allow it probably just raised by 100%.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
People are still going to find a way to get rid of the accountability they need for their actions. And it's funny that they're using it for contraception, but contraception is a pre-activity.
Well, some contraception I don't agree with. Yeah. You know, some of them I'm fine with, but the morning after pill.
Well, yeah, that's a post-action.
That's a post-action, yeah, exactly. And there's other things that are other asides, or whatever you call them, ways to poisoning, causing detachments and stuff like that. You got to be careful with what you're doing. I think it's all.
I think I can be happy with pre, but not post. And,
Yep.
and really, the pre thing, in my opinion, is planning.
Yes. Yep.
Versus, I want to get rid of accountability.
I'm going to say something that's the far-fetched idea, but abstain.
What?
I don't. I know it's.
You mean this book we were talking about is a great moral compass?
Yeah.
Where it says something about fornication, don't do it.
Yep.
Is a good idea.
I don't understand. You know, this is a foreign concept to us, but yeah, that would be a pretty good way to prevent something from happening.
Well, speaking of this subject, I think this next thing is that I wanted to talk about a little bit was this what they call the 4B movement.
Oh yeah,
These women are shaving their heads and refusing to have sexual relation with their husbands or their boyfriends, and it's funny to me that the very things that they wanted was abortion, free loose lewd activities and whatnot. Yep. Now they're going to abstain from, which is exactly what I want them to do.
Right, and I don't see how this is like a win-win, right?
But what's really embarrassing and humiliating as an American is to see these women doing this movement, and this movement was actually done by women under oppression, true oppression, shaving their hair for their hijabs, and they didn't want to be under this Islamic control anymore. And we've hijacked that to say, well, I don't have the preferred method of baby murder
Yeah.
that I wanted.
We live in such a sheltered and free society that we have no idea what real oppression is and what real things people, men and women, encounter in this world. The horrificness of slavery exists today.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And the downplaying on women. I mean, yeah, you look at Saudi Arabia and it says, well, women can't drive.
Yeah.
It's worse than that in Iran.
Sure.
It's worse than that in Iraq.
And just the perception of this is much different in our society. You know, I was visiting with somebody who, let's just say, it came to a different understanding of what love is. We'll put it this way. I was carrying a lot of bags, and I was trying to get into my pocket for my room key. And so one of the young ladies there, really sweet, one of the teachers, she said, hey, let me take some of your laundry. Let me carry that for you while you're trying to get your key out. And then someone looked back and said, hey, you don't have to serve a man. You don't have to serve him. And I said, now, wait a minute. What do you mean by this? First of all, we're friends, and she's just trying to help me carry my load. But what do you mean? He says, well, when a woman and a man are together, you're not subservient to him.
Yeah.
I said, well, acts of service doesn't make you subservient. That makes you love somebody. You love them, so you want to do acts of service for them. And that was just a whole different thing, but that's the difference between a Western woman's idea of how a woman rates in her relationship versus someone who's more traditional, who sees acts of service as acts of love. Whether we were a romantic couple or just friends, it was an act of love. Hey, I just want to help you carry this so you can continue doing what you're doing.
Right. And you know, when you get to a marriage, it's actually, someone who says it's 50%, but it's not. It's 100.
Yeah.
And I serve my wife as much as my wife serves me.
Yeah.
It's a love thing. It has nothing to do with making her do something that I don't want to do. You know, out of love, she'll go out and she'll feed my goats for me, even though she shouldn't be out there doing that, you know,
Yeah.
and then stop and pick something up for her on the way. You know, we're always doing something for each other.
Well, I can tell you, if the shoe was on the other foot, if she was carrying a bunch of bags and trying to get into her purse, I would probably take the bags from her. It's just service. And like I said, this doesn't even have to be a romantic relationship.
Right.
This is I'm talking a relationship between believers,
Absolutely.
or even just a relationship between people.
Yeah.
And to love somebody is to serve them. And however that service looks, whether it's carrying a bag for them, or whether it's opening a door for them, or whether it's helping them with a task of some kind, that's how we're called to treat each other.
Yeah. Absolutely. And especially in the church.
Yeah.
We should be doing this, serving each other in the church. But, you know, when I grew up, when I was growing up back in the 80s, I don't quite remember the 70s, but late 70s and early 80s, it was a different mindset. You know, people actually kind of helped each other out.
Yeah.
I can remember going out and then the neighbors, if I was doing something in the yard or whatever, they would come over and offer to help. And nowadays, you don't get...
No, they
Yeah.
I can't see you working. I can't see you struggling. I'm just going to keep walking. You know?
Yep.
It's a totally different mindset. But, you know, I started to realize that when this happened, this was in Myanmar. And while Myanmar is probably 50 years behind the U.S.
Yeah.
in social and technology type based stuff, I really found it refreshing the way the men and women interacted with each other.
Yeah.
Because it was more of a traditional roles, and there was no seemingly I'm less than you. This is just my role. This is what I do, and this is what you do.
You know, and this is something that people have tried to say about the Bible for years, that the Bible places women as a second-class citizen, where in reality, the Bible brought a woman up from being a second-class citizen,
Yes.
and made her equal with the man,
Yep.
which in history, in ancient world, didn't happen. Women were nothing. In fact, I had done a sermon about the genealogy of Jesus and how The genealogy records women in his genealogy, which you never did back then.
Yeah, yeah.
And then at his resurrection, who were the first ones to report that he had risen?
Yeah.
It was women. So, the Bible has always elevated and put him on the same level as a man.
Well, it's such an interesting thing that our society, our Western society, has this feeling of if you're playing in your role, that must mean you're lesser.
Right.
But
right.
really, it's just the divine order, and God is not a God of chaos; He's a
No.
God of order, and so He's placed in orders. But He also says, in Christ there is neither Jew nor Gentile,
Right.
nor male nor female, nor slave nor free.
Yep.
None of that. In Christ, you are all the same.
Exactly.
But while you're here, this is the order of role I have for you.
Right. And, one of the things I've always looked at is the role of the Son to the Father.
Yeah.
Jesus is no less God than the Father is God.
Yeah.
But yet, Jesus, the Son, obeyed and submitted to the Father, not because he had to,
Yeah.
because he wanted to, and because this is the way order is. There has to be a decision.
Well, and you see locally, I say Western-wise, the word submission is an evil word.
Oh, yeah.
But it's funny that they say, well, see, it says, wives, be submissive to your husbands. I said, well, yeah, but did you see the other verse where it says, likewise, all people be submissive to all people in Christ?
It says that, and then it also says, if the wife to be submissive to you, but you to give your life for the wife.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the next step beyond being
she's not
submissive.
required to give her life for you.
No.
But you're required to give your life for her. It's a different type of, but it's a different role.
Yeah.
But, well, I was just so refreshed to be there to see kids in Buddhist countries growing up, learning the gospel, memorizing entire books of the Bible in their school. It's phenomenal to see. And we had such a good time, and I hope you'll come back with me over there sometime. You'll enjoy seeing the updates and getting to know the people. And one of these days you'll have to come to India with me. And
I'd love to go
see
to
that
India
out.
for sure and help out there. It looks like a lot of good work that's happening, and things are moving along out there in India.
Yeah. Well, and first and foremost, the thing we do is to preach the gospel.
Absolutely. Amen.
To them that are lost, it's foolishness. But to those who are saved, it is the essence of life. It is everything.
Absolutely. Amen.
And it's a firm foundation. The only foundation you can build your life on is Jesus Christ.
Absolutely.
So thanks for joining us this week.